walks in the park. Oh, hi there. Did you hear me rambling myself? I wasn't expecting guests. Well, now that you're here, have you ever heard of Half-Life? I'm nostalgic for that game. It reminds me of simpler times. Like when we as humans weren't being enslaved by an alien race and I wasn't escaping on my ship, I barely scraped my pennies together fleeing to the time and space wormhole to apply for refugee status in the only inhabitable planet in reach, which is annoyingly not in our first dimension but in the fifth dimension. But that's neither here nor there. I'm not here to talk about my life, I'm here to talk about Half-Life. Mostly. So yeah, Half-Life proves to be prophetic in more ways than one, not only predicting our alien overlords, but also the trajectory of games as a whole. However, it seems quaint. As time marches on and dimensions blur together, we as gamers generally see its age as a crutch. But the mod Half-Life RTX by Sultan T brings contemporary graphical fidelity to this 1998 video game, renewing it with a respectful vigor that is surprisingly transformative, but eternally familiar. So grab yourself a cup of coffee and welcome to space while we journey through the funky frontier of strange games. Half-Life begins with Gordon Freeman on the way to work, and we as players get a view of this sublime, large facility.
Beyond Sector C, you will need to return to the central transit hub in...
I originally assumed this was an incredible graphical showcase of realism at the time, but the handful of reviews I looked up, they don't say much about the graphics, but more about the interconnected quality of levels as a whole. For example, GameSpot mentions its smooth level transitions and dynamic AI enemies are the impressive aspects, which is understandable. The original two Quake games and Unreal were already massive graphical 3D accelerated powerhouses before Half-Life released. And while Unreal had similar, sprawling level transitions similar to Half-Life a year before, those were set in more fantastical sci-fi settings, where Half-Life featured relatively more palpable, familiar locations. I don't think many of us have seen a facility like this in real life, but it looks like something that could exist, and it is designed to look practical and logical over impressive. However, in recent years, Half-Life has finally been handed its graphical showcase trophy, as the RTX mod brings out the graphical wow factor it didn't have before. See the opening now? What a difference.
If your intended destination is a high security area beyond Sector C, you will need...
It truly is respectful to the original visuals. Half-Life is a statically lit game, but it is incredibly intelligent with color use to show a mood. Sultan T understands this and doesn't overwhelm us with ubiquitous wow moments. Sometimes it looks as flat as the original. I mean, you wouldn't want your scientist's eyes going bad, right? This is a professional facility, of course.
My God, what are you doing?
When the mod author does ramp up the contrast that was already present in the original, it's mesmerizing. Look at the lead up to the resonance cascade. Flat, muted colors in the workplace. We move to the orange testing chamber, and it's already pretty colorful, but when you trigger the resonance cascade, the saturated volumetrics rev up to overdrive in this version. It's so beautiful, and it hits close to home. I kind of feel like I'm at ground zero before Earth's current invasion. Like, dang, how did you know, Half-Life? So prescient. But it should be said, only a little has changed other than the lighting. There are some mirrors here and there, some light sources added to motivate the lighting, and it's really effective. It interprets and enhances the mood of Half-Life in a remarkable way. But this is not a remake. This is not Black Mesa. This is the original Half-Life with incredible new lighting. You can even switch back and forth at will, like Halo 1 and 2 in the Master Chief Collection, for instance. But what about the sound? It's the original. Why? The sounds sound just the same. Those crunchy effects are kind of alien, kind of recognizable, and so weird.
See that shot?
They work with the graphics to bring the game to a strange in-between of reality and otherworldly beauty. However, there is an option to enhance the sounds, but I would never. That low bit rate, crunchy, aggressive design is perfect. It makes me feel the right kind of unease, always on edge, punchy, and 100% satisfying. Contrast the fancy graphics and it feels right. The gap of fidelity is a statement in itself, and when you're stuck in space for a long journey, that's a really powerful soundscape with a view of a nebula just outside your window. It's blissful moments like those I'm not taking for granted, believe me. That sound of crunchiness extends to the gore. With its goopy, gross effects, Half-Life knows how to make a mess, and I love the painting metagame that comes from it. You get aliens and people in a room, and you try to Bob Ross those guts into an immaculate vision. And ray tracing or not, it is glorious. Each end to a battle is rewarded with fresh hallway confetti to burst open with childlike glee. The designers knew. That crowbar swings much quicker when cracking open these walk-in paint receptacles. I remember doing this obsessively when I played this as a deranged middle schooler, and I'm still doing this as an idiot adult. These goopy, gross, tactile gore effects that smear the tile of the battle-torn office blocks are timeless. What a lizard-brained rush. Only games I can think of today that compete are Paint the Town Red, which has crazy, over-the-top, voxel-style gore. Very indie. For mainstream, there's Fallout, some Cyberpunk, and while their gore is amazing, it's not nearly as satisfying. I think that comes down to the game's core focus. I'm talking about Half-Life's level design. It funnels the player through its industrial environments using vents and destruction and color to guide us. Its flow is rhythmic, the way each room presents a new obstacle. Half-Life has themes.
This is a rare opportunity for us. This is the purest sample we've seen yet.
And potentially the most unstable.
Folly of man, survival, overcoming the odds, but that's background. It's so distilled and so honed, it uses basic familiar literary themes as background to present its structure before anything else. I think of it as prose, its interconnected hallways and corridors as sentences, its vents and commas as colons, enemy placement as exclamation points, and its shifts of environment as paragraphs, and of course, its chapters as chapters. I also want to note, editor's note here, chapter font looks amazing, they're big and bold now. Anyway, this literary building blocks metaphor can be applied to other games, of course, but Half-Life is so fluid, so dynamically shifting, it transcends its medium and somehow makes me think of reading an absorbing thriller with constant escalating momentum. But it's not just a shooter with momentum, its statement is momentum. And all this adds up to one hell of an experience that's even bigger than the sum of its already gigantic part. Half-Life is a legend for a reason. We experience these interconnected pieces fluently, its content enhanced with ray tracing to create a more enticing experience that showcases the brilliance of this old game without compromises for old heads and newcomers alike. Like, I would play with the original graphics, that's cool to me honestly, but with that one single feature beautifully enhanced, the contrast to the older tech is revelatory because it shows the brilliant foundation it's built from. It's definitely nostalgic for me, but it's also new. I don't feel myself yearning for the old feeling of 13-year-old me because now I interact with the game differently as I'm leaving home to somewhere alien, to me at least. But I find myself reflecting on my past, thinking about those old feelings of safety, but resisting the urge to stew on them, and Half-Life RTX helps that. And beyond the therapy, or maybe cope, it's not just a replay of an old favorite, it's a new understanding of the old experience, an acceptance of what it was. This experience cannot be fully communicated with words because Half-Life's narrative invites you to plunge into it and only come up for air when it's done. Experience is the multitude of tendrils that weave our lives together through notable events. And just as with Half-Life, those intangibles, those feelings that connect the graphics to the sounds, gore, the levels, birthing a feeling of time spent in this world that's invigorating in real life. And, I think that's worth experiencing. So jump in. The water is warm, green, and gooey over here. But also like and subscribe and play Half-Life RTX. Tell me what you think in the comments. I want to hear because this mod is awesome. Thanks for watching.